So you're interested in code enforcement primarily, right?
Yes, code enforcement with the GIS module plugin, and we needed to talk to whatever financial software we end up getting down the line.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll give you an overview of kind of the code enforcement component, how you input complaints, do inspections, send notices, all that kind of stuff. Then we can take a look at the GIS component, talk about that, and then we can talk about integration or any other things that might come up. And if you've got questions along the way, just let me know. And sometimes when I'm talking, I can't hear you. So if you ask me a question and I don't reply, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just talking too much. So just say it again, and I'll try to listen in for that.
Okay.
All right. So I'm logged in as just a test user that we've got here, and I'll start by setting up a new case. When you first log in, it takes you here to the welcome page, and this has kind of an overview of your tasks and things to do, and we'll come back to this. But we'll start out with doing a new case. So to put in a new complaint, I go to Quick Add, and then I'll select a code compliance case. And that pulls up our new code case. And the first thing that I can do is enter the name of the complainant if I have it. So if someone calls you up and they want to give you their name, you can plug their name in here and put them in. If they want to be anonymous, or if it was something that you saw proactively on inspection, you can just skip this part. So I'll just skip that part for now. We'll pretend like we don't have a complainant. And I'll jump down here to the case part, and I'll type in a brief description. So let's say we've got weeds in front yard and junk cars or classic cars, depends on the owner, what they think, in the front yard. So just a basic description. This shows up on a lot of your searches and reports, so it's kind of the one-sentence narrative of what this complaint is about. Next thing I'll do is type in an address. So let's say it's 101 Main. And I'll click the search icon. And this will pull up your parcel data. So as part of your setup, we integrate with your parcel data that typically comes from the county assessor's office. It can come from any source you've got that's got the most current ownership information. So this is just the basics. It's the property address, the owner's name and their address, parcel number, legal description, that kind of stuff. So it shows me any matches, and it'll also show me if this address has been used in other files. And once I identify the correct property, I can just click Select here, and that'll pull in the full address, the property owner's name and their address, parcel number, legal description, and the other parcel-related data.
Okay, can I ask a question here?
Sure.
The assessor's website and the information, is that you're constantly updating and pulling, or if there's a change to the assessor's website, do we have to do that manually?
We typically do. It's not a live connection. So we typically do uploads once a month. It kind of depends on how much change you have going on. So typically it's like a once a month extraction, or more often possibly, or less often. But it's a point in time kind of a thing.
But if let's say we did catch an owner change and it hasn't happened yet, can we manually change the owner?
Yeah, I can type in, no, it's not.
Okay.
And that's part of why when you search, let me go back here and see if it'll show you this. When you search, it shows you, okay, here's what we've got in the county assessor's office, and then here's what we've got recently. So you can take a look at some of the more recent ones, and if it's different, if it's been changed, these all have the same one, but if it was changed, you'd see that date here. So if you look at this and it said it was updated, a week ago, then you go, oh, this is probably the more current.
Okay.
All right, so then I'll just plug in some more information on our file. Let's say it's a code enforcement type of a file. The disposition is typically left blank in the beginning. That's usually once you bring it into compliance, what was the disposition, was abated, compliance, whatever, and this is used for reporting purposes primarily.
Right.
Categories, these, and anywhere you see a drop-down, you can add, remove, change items in there. We usually load some of the generic items, but we can, you can modify that, or we can modify that as needed. So a category is just sort of a grouping. It's similar to your violation, but usually it's at a higher level. So we might call this one nuisance. And you could have multiple categories. So if we also had some, if we wanted to call it nuisance and vehicles, we could add multiple categories if we wanted to.
Okay.
If you'd like to track how it was received, you can do that. You don't have to, but you can fill that in. So we've got all our basic complaint and property information. The last thing that we're going to do is schedule an inspection. So we're going to schedule an inspection. We could change the users if we wanted to. I'll just leave this person. That's who I'm logged in as. And let's say we want them to go out today, if possible. So I'll just pick today's date. And click Save. This is just warning me that up at the top I didn't put in a complaint, and then is that okay? And I say yes to proceed. So this sets up our case file and displays the basic case information. So what it does is it assigns a file number, which is kind of the case number, and that's just the current year plus the sequential number that goes here. And then it displays our case file. And we've got these tabs that go across the top that let us view different information. And these options on the side let us generally edit and add. There's some additional options in there, but primarily they're for adding to this file. Okay. So here's our file. Let's see, how does the inspector know that this has come in and he should be doing an inspection? So I'm going to click the CitizenServe logo, which takes us back to our welcome page. So the My Tasks option, this is where it lists any of your to-do items. So if you're an inspector, that's typically inspections. It can also be follow-ups or reminders that you set to yourself. And the way that the tasks work is they show up on your list as soon as they're due, and they stay on there until you take them off. So that's why I have some really old ones here, because I haven't finished them yet. So they stay on forever. So if you had it show up on your list, it was due yesterday, but you didn't get to it yesterday, you won't lose it. It's going to stay on there until you actually do it.
Okay.
So here's that one I just added. So let's say I did my inspection. I'm going to pull this up by clicking here. And we'll input our inspection notes. So we're going to add some pictures and violations and send a notice and schedule a reinspection. So the first thing we'll do is enter our inspection. So the description is typically where you put in your inspection notes. So maybe something like inspection complete, violations found, I can't type and talk, NOV sent. Something like that.
Okay.
And I'm going to plug in the date that I did my inspection, so I did it today. And then I want to go back out in, say, a month and do a reinspection. So to do that, I'm going to click this icon up here, which is Add Follow-Up. That saves this one and then gives me a screen to enter another activity. So I'll click that. And then the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to schedule our reinspection. I'll select reinspection. And this list of items will be whatever your types of activities. A lot of different things in here, but generally you're going to see things like inspection, reinspection, follow-up, that kind of stuff. So we'll say reinspection. We'll keep it assigned to myself, and let's say I want to go there in a month, so I'll just pick up my calendar and grab a month from today, and then just save it. Our Activities tab, this is where you can see what's going on with the case. So you can tell when something's been done. Like if I look at this one, I can see that we completed that first inspection on the 21st, and we're going to go back again on the 21st. So over time, if this is a case that stays open for a long time, all of your history is going to be here, and the most recent thing is at the top. So we add our inspection notes. Let's add some pictures. So to add our pictures, I'm going to come over here under the Add option and select Multiple Docs. And I'm going to add a couple here. We'll say it's a photo. We'll do 2 photos. Click Browse, and if I was attached to, my camera was attached to my computer, I could just go to that. I don't have a camera, so I'm just going to pull some of these. This looks like a weeds. So I can type in the description here, because a lot of times those picture names are like S0521, and that's not very helpful when you're trying to find one. So weeds in front yard. And let me grab another one. I think I've got a car in here somewhere. Here's a really pretty car. And I'll click Save. This is going to pull it off of your camera or your hard drive, wherever it might be, and attach it here under the Documents tab. So anyone could look at it who's got access to the case. They could pull it up and take a look at those pictures. And there's no limit to the number of photos you can attach. You can do as many as you want.
Cool.
So the next thing we want to do is add the violations that we found on the property. So to do that, I'm going to go over here again under Add and select Violation. And as part of your setup, we get your violations that you typically cite, and we put them in the system. We don't usually do all of them because if you pull every single ordinance and code, you're going to have a huge list. So normally what we do is we get the basics, and so that's somewhere usually between, I don't know, 50 and 300 of the things that you most often cite. So you can select your description, your violation based on the description. So I could come here and pick weeds. Or you can select it by the code. So if you know the code and you choose a code, it'll pull it to the description. So some people like working on the code, some people like the description, whichever works better for you. And if you're not sure if that's the right one, you can click View here, and that pulls up the full ordinance text. So this is pretty short. Usually this is the actual, text that's in the code. And these can print on our letters too, which I'll show you here in a minute. There are weeds, and I'm going to put the comments so that when we print out our letter, the actual ordinance will print on the letter, but we may want to give them additional information so that they are clear on what they need to do. So we might say, the tall grass and weeds in the front yard must be cut. Something like that. And if we also had that, we had a junk car, I can add that one. I'm just going to click Save here, which saves this one, gives me another page to enter the next one. And now I'll find something that's car related. What do we got here? We have motor vehicle. Do non-operable. And all I can say here, the blue car, something like that. And then I'll save this one. Again, it gives me a page, so if I have a bunch of violations, I can enter them quickly. If I don't have any more, I can just click that icon and that list sitting here. So you can have as many violations as you want on your file, and each individual violation has a separate status. So if I go back out and they took care of the weeds, but the car is still there, I can close this one out and keep this one open. This will let you know exactly what's still open, and also allow you to provide reports that say, well, how long does it take to open weeds generally, or to get them closed, that kind of thing. So the last thing we want to do now is send them a letter, a notice of violation. So to do that, I'm going to come over here under Add and select Letter, and we want to send the letter to the property owner. So next to that property owner, I'll select a violation letter. And this letter is set up to print pictures on it. You don't have to do this. You can if you want to. But if your letter is set up to print pictures, what it does is it'll pull up a list of all the photos that are on this file so that you can select which ones you want to include, because you may not want all of them. So I'll click Finish, and then Generate here. And Generate will take our template letter and pull in all of our general violation information. So I'm going to look at this in a print preview so you can kind of see how it looks on a page. My mouse is, I should have put new batteries in my mouse. It looks like it doesn't want to listen to me. There we go. So here, the letter template will look however your notices look. This is just an example. So it's pulled in the address, the case information. These are those violations I selected. So if I put in a description, that'll print that there. If I left it, if I didn't, it wouldn't. And you can format this however you want. And if you want to have an electronic signature, you can. And so then I think on page 2 here, we've got our photos that we attached. So again, you can make those look however you want. So we can mail this out and then close it. And when we close it, it asks if we want to save a copy. I'll select Yes. And that saves a copy to the Documents tab, so we have a history of it. We can tell who sent it out, on what date. We can pull it back up and take a look at it again if we need to. So that's the process to input your inspection results. I can forget about this complete file now, and in a month it's going to show back up on my to-do list reminding me to do a reinspection. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
That makes perfect sense. My next question is, if let's say I don't do the reinspection, and kind of alert my boss, is there a thing that we can set up?
There is an escalation process, and the way it works, I don't have it set up here in the Demoville, but the way it works is you can set it up with different levels. So it can say, well, okay, email me if I have anything that's older than 10 days. And then at 15 days, it goes to the supervisor. So you can kind of do different things with it.
Cool. And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One question I had at the very start when you pulled up 101 Main Street, right. Will it show, let's say Joe and I are both driving around separately that day, and we both noticed the tall grass and weeds, and I happen to get to it first. When Joe goes later and enters 101 Main Street, will it show him, hey, wait a minute, there's already one pending on that property?
It does. When you click Select All, if there's anything else going on this same address, you get this icon shows up. So you can click that, and this will show both open and closed so that you can see history.
Okay.
And if you use the system for permitting, you'll be able to see if there were any permits on that address as well. Perfect. The other icon that might come up, this is to add an alert, but if there was an alert on this file, you'd see a flashing red exclamation point. And an alert is just a way to put a flag on a property or a person. So if there's dangerous conditions, anything like that, if you pull up that file, it'll flash this red thing at you. And then if you print out your inspection report, it'll also print any alerts that are on that address or on any of the people tied to that address.
Watch out for the dog.
Yeah, watch out for the dog. Dangerous guy lives there, whatever those kind of things might be.
Cool.
All right, anything else on that side of things?
No.
All right, let me show you the GIS component. So I'm going to go into Find Property. You can also get to it from here. This little link pulls up the GIS, but it kind of is tied more specifically to that one. I'll just pull it up from here. My mouse, there we go. So you can put in an address, and my makeup addresses don't work in here, so I have to plug in a real one. Let's see. For the city that I'm set up in. Let me make this bigger. All right, so we'll put in Paddock and search. So found 21 files on Paddock, and it goes to that area and puts these little pinpoints there. I have to make this a little smaller so I can see everything. There we go. And I can turn on different layers. So if I want to take a look at the zoning, I can click any of your layers. So your layers, we export them, plug them in. So, you can have layers for zoning or council districts or whatever you might want there. And once you turn on your layer, if you click it, it'll tell you, if it's a layer that's kind of an area-based thing, like a council district or a zoning area, a pop-up will show you what that is. If it's more like streets, it just outlines where those streets are. There's all our streets. So, parcel lines, that kind of stuff. And then you can drill down on a property if you've got additional information tied to it. Let me zoom in here. And normally this doesn't scroll like this, but I have my screen zoomed so that it looks better on your monitor. But if I click View Additional Information, I can see basic information on the address. You can load custom fields, so if you retain certain information about addresses, those can all be listed here, like zoning, historical district, flood zone, anything like that. And then you can drill down to see if there's any files on that property or any permits on that property.